So the second main concept we talk about in geometry is the concept of lines. We just finished talking about points. And so what it is it takes points clustered close together to make a line. So you can kind of see by the picture here, we have a bunch of these points of various sizes, and they all line up, and if there's enough of them, we zoom out and we would see a solid line. So we can think of a line like stacking together, like beads on a string, and then if you pull it straight, it creates a line. So let's talk some more about lines. Again, this is a good point where you might want to take some notes. Again, I'm going to pull up my highlighter so that we can bring our attention to certain items here. So we're going to talk about how a line is a straight string of an infinite number of points. So when you see a line, or even these letters on your screen, we consider that to have an infinity number of points, so close together that it looks solid. The other idea about a line is that it extends forever in two directions. It goes forever to the right and forever to the left. There's no beginning or no end. We say there's no end points. There's no end, so there's no end points. In a picture, a line will be represented with a line with arrows at each end. And those arrows indicate the forever. So if you see an arrow on something in geometry, it means it keeps going, but we don't have enough paper to show it, so we just represent it with an arrow, okay? So technically a line has no length. Because it never stops, we can't measure it, right? If you keep flying in outer space and you never stop, I don't know how far you've gone because you're always adding more distance. So technically a line has no length. When we have a line, okay, we name a line by using any 2 points on the line. So even if there's more than 2, I always tell students to pick your favorites. Just pick 2 of them, and that's how you name the line. It doesn't matter if you name them going left to right or right to left. Just pick any 2 points on that line, and that is how you name it. Once we write those letters down, we go ahead and give a double arrow line over the top of them, and I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. Okay? Now, those of you who want to be fancy and overachievers, sometimes you can name a line using a lowercase italic letter. And I'll show you what that looks like in a minute too. Okay? So you might want to write these down, especially how to name a line. That's really important in our class, is how to name a line. So let's make sure we learn that it's any 2 points and that we have that double arrow symbol over the top of it. Okay, so let's do an example. It says below is a straight string of points, or a line. What are 3 possible names for this line? Okay, so I'm going to go up to my pen. Hopefully this writes a little bit better this time. So if I'm going to name this, remember, I have a line and it's got, let's see, A, B, C, D. It's got 4 points on the line. So if I'm going to name this line, again, I'm just going to pick any 2 points at random. It doesn't matter which 2 points I choose. So maybe I say A and D, the first and the last. Perfect. I have to then include a line with 2 arrows over the top of it. That is my symbol. Because in math, remember, mathematicians are horrible spellers. That's why we do numbers. I always tell students, hey people, I'm 1, 2, 3s, not ABCs, okay? I can't spell, so instead of worrying about writing out the word line, AD, we use just a little symbol that means line, AD. Option 2, again, this is where it's anything you want. You pick any 2 points on this line. Maybe I say C, B. It doesn't matter that C came after B. It doesn't matter. I also then have to make sure I include my double arrow symbol. Notice up here, I've got my little letter M. There's my little italic letter. So if there's a little letter floating out by one of the arrows, that could be a name for your line. So maybe option 3, I'm going to write the little fancy letter. Let's see if I can do a little fancy letter. Oh, that's horrible, but okay, we all get it. A fancy letter M. Okay? So those are 3. Now there's more than 3 options on this picture. So whatever you see is probably correct. The next question says, how many endpoints does a line have? This is a trick question. Because an endpoint means that something ends. And does a line ever come to an end? No, that's what those arrows represent. Those arrows represent keep going. So how many end points does it have? It doesn't have any. It has 0 endpoints. It doesn't stop, so therefore it doesn't end. Okay? We can skip number 3. Number 3 was when you have these packets, if you're in the classroom, we have paper packets, and so let me scroll this down. But we don't have those, so we can't check each other's work. The last question says, is it possible to measure a line? Can I put a ruler or a tape measure up against a line and measure it? No, I can't. Since it goes on forever, it doesn't stop. And if I'm going to measure something, I have to measure it from the beginning to the end. Well, I don't have those points, therefore I can't measure it. All right, so that's our concept of lines. Remember, we learned about points, and then points string together like beads on a string, or birds on a power line, right? They string together, and when there's enough of them, it looks like a solid line. That's how we get a line made out of points.